It's a bone-chilling sound that many of us can imagine. The ear-splitting roar of the Tyrannosaurus rex. However, 66 million years ago, the sound emitting across valleys from this ferocious creature would have been much different than we would expect. There are many incidents where the images of the dinosaurs we see in the media and the reality are different. Think of the featherless velociraptors in Jurassic Park. With the Tyrannosaurus rex being the most famous carnivorous dinosaur of all time, it's no surprise that filmmakers assumed it would roar like our predators do today. The Tyrannosaurus rex has pretty extensive IMDb credits. From its film debut in 1918 with The Ghost of Slumber Mountain, to starring turns in The Lost World 1925, and King Kong 1933. To create the shrieks in King Kong, filmmakers used a mix of cougar screams and compressed air. However, Jurassic Park is probably the most iconic portrayal of a T-Rex on film. By the time filming began in August 1992, only about 7 Tyrannosaurus rex skeletons had been found. We had little idea of how they sounded, so the makers of the film took a few artistic liberties. Partially to fill in the gaps of knowledge, but also to create a compelling and exciting film. Gary Rydstrom, sound designer on Jurassic Park, stated in a 2004 talk that sound effects to me are not just to make the unbelievable believable. They're really there for the sake of storytelling, to give us a sense of fear, a sense of who these dinosaurs are. The roar we know is actually a very well-made sound effect. So well-made, Jurassic Park won an Academy Award for Best Sound Mixing and another for Best Sound Editing. To make the terrifying roar of the T-Rex, Gary Rydstrom used the vocals of different animals. Rydstrom and his team played around with the sounds, mixing and editing different parts together, and slowing down the sounds to make them feel bigger. The finished product included a baby elephant squeal, described as a cute high-pitched scream by Rydstrom, which provided the high notes you hear. An alligator gurgle hitting the lower sounds. A bit of koala. Rydstrom's Jack Russell Terrier, Buster, who also provided his vocal talents to Terminator 2. Roars and snarls from lions and tigers. Other wildlife sounds used to help bring the Tyrannosaurus rex to life include air escaping a whale's blowhole, which was the T-Rex breath. As far as we know, most dinosaurs didn't have a vocal box or a syrinx, a vocal organ found in birds. This makes the question of what a T-Rex actually sounded like tricky to answer. After all, a roar doesn't fossilize, and fossils that are left behind don't preserve enough detail to know how every part of a dinosaur functioned. However, there are a lot of paleontologists studying what is known as paleoacoustics, that is, the study of sound associated with fossils. One line of study is looking at the closest living relatives of dinosaurs, like birds and crocodilians. In 2016, a study stated the T-Rex may have kept its mouth closed to communicate, making hooting, cooing, swooshing, and booming noises, compared to modern-day emus and ostriches. This is really different from the open-mouthed roar of modern-day predators like lions. Closed-mouth vocalizations or noises make a low-frequency sound. Think of a crocodilian growl. Whilst this isn't a roar, it still would have been menacing. Birds today use these sounds to attract mates or defend territory. Researchers, led by Professor Julia Clark, tested this theory on a BBC documentary called The Real T-Rex. Clark looked at the closest living relatives of the dinosaur. By mixing the booming call of a Eurasian bittern with the growls of a Chinese crocodile, and scaling it up to match an average T-Rex, which would be about 12 meters long, They created an ominous low rumble. The team were happy with the results, with Clark telling TV presenter Chris Packham, "I feel like this sound just induces fear. People think you need a roar to be really scary. But isn't that the scariest sound that you've heard? Pop your headphones on and see what you think." Part of the reason this sound is terrifying could be because it's similar to the sound we hear in modern-day horror soundtracks. A low-frequency noise is felt as well as heard, often making the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. A 3D scan of a T-Rex's skull also supports this theory. A T-Rex would have been particularly sensitive to low-frequency sounds like rumbles. In theory, they would have been able to hear sounds so low humans wouldn't be able to hear them. Potentially, these creatures talk to each other over long distances as these low sounds traveled to the ground. Today, elephants and blue whales communicate over long distance using this method, on land and in water respectively. This is just a theory, and sadly we'll never know exactly what the T-Rex sounded like. Unless someone invented a predator-proof time machine. However, this is an educated guess backed up with extensive research. The land of the dinosaurs was still a cacophony of sounds. Imagine the crush of a large clawed foot hitting the ground, the swoosh of a large muscle tail, the claps of jaws as the prey is caught, alongside the crunch of bones. There are some other dinosaurs that have left clues, telling us how they would have sounded. Hadrosaurs are a family of herbivores that populated the late Cretaceous period in Asia and North America. Hadrosaur means bulky lizard and included the Parasaurolophus and the Croithosaurus. Scientists have studied their inner ear anatomy and their skulls. These dinosaurs had large hollow crests and extended nasal passages. As air is blown through these passages, the sound created is like a low, booming foghorn. It's time to grab your headphones again and have a listen. Whilst it may be disappointing that the T-Rex didn't roar in the way we imagined it to, the sounds that would have littered the landscape whilst the dinosaurs ruled the earth are still sinister, foreboding, and eerie. They feel fitting for these magnificent creatures.